He who competes openly bleeds publicly. That is where we begin. A whisper that feels like it carries centuries of weight, echoing through the corridors of time. You can almost hear the marble steps of Renaissance Florence beneath your feet. You can almost feel the cold hand of history gripping your shoulder. Machiavelli never carved these words into his manuscripts, but his life was proof of them. You will not find them printed in the prints. You will not find them quoted in the courts of kings. Yet the most dangerous men in history, the emperors, the conquerors, the men who bent entire civilizations to their will, they lived by it as though it were divine law. Because Machiavelli understood something most never do. Power is never truly won on the battlefield of open competition. It is never won in the arena where the crowd cheers and the spotlight burns. That place, the open stage, is the theater of fools. And if you look closely, you know this already. Think of the games of your own life. The classroom, where the teacher rewarded the child who raised their hand fastest. The workplace, where the loudest voice in the meeting received credit for an idea that was never theirs. The social sphere, where those with beauty, status, or wealth appeared to effortlessly dominate. Every open contest is already rigged. It rewards those who walk into the arena with advantages you cannot see, a reputation they built years before you arrived, resources you were never given, networks you do not have. And so when you walk into that arena, brimming with hope, brimming with ego, you do not realize that you have already lost. This is what Machiavelli sought to show you. This is the secret that made him both feared and misunderstood. He warned, never compete where others can see you. It sounds cowardly, doesn't it? To the untrained ear, it sounds like retreat, like hiding, like weakness. But pause for a moment. Breathe. Look deeper. To avoid open competition is not weakness. It is the deepest strength. It is the art of refusing to fight on someone else's battlefield. This is the rule of hidden advantage. Close your eyes for a moment and picture yourself standing on a chessboard. Across from you is a master. Every move you make, he already knows the counter. Every strategy you think is clever, he has crushed it 1,000 times before. Your hands tremble on the pieces, while his remain steady, calm, unshaken. If you insist on playing the game by his rules, you are already defeated, not because you lack intelligence, not because you lack courage, but because you walked willingly into his world. Machiavelli whispers to you, do not play where the board is visible. Shift the board itself. Tilt the ground under his feet. Make him play a game he doesn't even realize is happening. This is the essence of hidden advantage. You may think this is only philosophy, but science now echoes it. Neuroscience tells us that the conscious mind, the stage of open thought, where attention and logic operate, is the smallest fragment of your power. It is the visible arena, the place of open competition. It is loud, it is theatrical, but it is also predictable. The subconscious, however, is vast. It is silent. It moves beneath the surface like a deep ocean current, shaping behavior without anyone noticing. Quantum physics too speaks this truth in its own language. The observer effect tells us that what is seen changes simply by being seen. The visible contest, the open fight, collapses into a single possibility, but the unseen, that remains infinite. Machiavelli knew this centuries before science could prove it. The game is not in the visible. The game is in the shadows. Think about the last time your ego tempted you. You saw someone standing above you, in business, in relationships, in influence. And a voice inside whispered, you can beat them. Go head to head. Prove yourself. So you spoke louder. You pushed harder. You tried to shine brighter in the very space they already owned. And in the end, you fell. Not because you lacked talent, but because you chose the wrong battlefield. The battlefield of open competition belongs to those who already have resources, reputation, reach. Machiavelli warned, if you must strike at a powerful enemy, do not wound them. Kill them, otherwise you will teach them how to destroy you. But most people don't even wound. They irritate, they provoke, they poke at the edges of power. And then they are crushed. Crushed not because they were weak. Crushed because they fought in the light, when they should have disappeared into the shadows. This is why you must unlearn what the world has taught you. Society rewards you for competing openly. It tells you that fairness lies in showing your hand, in announcing your goals, in declaring your intent. But fairness is a mask. Behind it lies a rigged system, built to elevate those already enthroned. Machiavelli offers you something colder, something darker, but also something liberating. He offers you the path of hidden advantage, to observe silently, to disguise your ambition, to let others believe you play the same game, while all the while you are shifting the ground beneath their feet. And when victory comes, it will not look like victory. It will look like destiny. It will look as though the world conspired in your favor, and your enemies will not even realize you had a hand in their fall. Pause here. Breathe this in. Let it settle. Because this is not just strategy. This is a way of being. A way of moving through a world that hungers to test you, to lure you into open arenas where you cannot win. If you truly understand this, you will never again waste your energy competing in the light. You will retreat into the deeper currents. You will train your mind to see what others do not see. You will rewire yourself for hidden advantage. And that is where power begins. There is a reason why the arena is always built in the center of the city. There is a reason why the crowd is invited, why the music swells, why the torches burn so bright. It is not because the contest matters. It is because the contest must be seen. The Romans knew this. Their gladiators bled not for victory, but for spectacle. The games were not about who lived or died. They were about who entertained, who gave the people something to scream for. In the end, the real victors were not the men in the sand. It was the emperor in his marble seat who had arranged the theater in the first place. And yet, thousands of years later, you step into the same arena. Not of sand and blood, but of careers, of status, of wealth, of recognition. The world tells you prove yourself, compete, be the best. But Machiavelli whispers, the open contest is designed to consume you. Think about the workplace. The man who stays the latest, who speaks the loudest, who brags about endless hustle. He shines brightly, but only for a moment. His light is a flare burning hot and fast, attracting attention, burning itself out. Now think of the quiet one, the man who does not announce his plans, the woman who smiles while listening, while observing. They do not compete openly. They let the loud voices tire themselves, let the flares burn out. Then, when the moment comes, they move silently. A single sentence in the right ear, a single connection built in the shadows, a single opportunity seized while others are distracted. And suddenly, the spotlight shifts. The loud ones fall silent, and the quiet one, who never seemed to be playing the game, has already won. This is why Machiavelli saw open competition as the theater of fools. Because when you step into the arena, the rules are already written, and those rules were not written for you. The loudest voice is heard, the richest man is admired, the most connected are celebrated. And you may pour out your soul, give your best, push harder than anyone else, and it will not matter. Because the crowd does not cheer for merit. They cheer for power they already recognize. The contest was never for you. Neuroscience calls this the illusion of fairness. The brain loves symmetry, loves the idea that effort equals reward. It soothes us, it gives meaning. But the reality is far colder. Effort does not equal reward. Visibility does not equal influence. The arena is designed to look fair, so that you keep playing, keep bleeding, keep feeding the crowd. Quantum physics mirrors this truth in its own strange tongue. The open arena is like the collapsed wave function. Once something is seen, measured, defined, it becomes limited. Possibility shrinks into predictability. But in the unseen, in the shadows, infinite potential still exists. That is where hidden advantage lies. That is where Machiavelli played. And if you are honest, you have felt this. You've seen someone with less talent rise above you. You've seen someone with more resources win without effort. You felt the sting of losing not because you were weak, but because the game was never yours to win. Your ego told you try harder. Prove yourself, enter again, fight louder, and again you bled publicly. The crowd cheered. The powerful remained seated in their marble chairs, and you left the arena weaker than before. But Machiavelli teaches you to walk away, to let the fools fight under the burning light, to let the crowd scream for their blood, while you remain unseen, while you study the emperor himself, while you learn not to fight the gladiators, but to become the one who builds the arena. This is the hidden advantage. Not to win the game, but to rewrite it. Not to outshine others in the open, but to move silently in the dark until the day the stage itself belongs to you. Pause. Let that sink into your bones. Because the moment you step out of the theater, the world feels different. You no longer hunger for applause. You no longer crave the fleeting reward of recognition. You become something rarer, something far more dangerous and visible. And invisibility is the highest form of power. If this resonates, share it in the comments. It helps this message reach more seekers who are still trapped in the theater of fools. Strength. It is the most deceptive mask the world wears. You see it in the man who boasts of wealth, in the woman who commands attention with beauty, in the leader who speaks as if every word were law. The crowd bows, the arena applauds, and you, watching from the shadows, feel the sting of inadequacy. But Machiavelli warns you, what you see is not strength. What you see is theater. The strongest fortress is never the wall you see towering in the sunlight. It is the tunnel dug beneath it in silence. The strongest warrior is not the one with the loudest shout, the brightest armor, the sharpest blade. It is the one who carries poison in his sleeve, unseen, unspoken, waiting. The strongest ruler is not the one that people chant for. It is the one whose name they do not dare whisper, because they do not even know he exists. This is the illusion of strength, that what is visible, loud, adorned is power. But you know this isn't true. Think of your own life. You've met people who shouted their importance, who pushed themselves into every conversation. They seemed untouchable, and yet within weeks, within months, they were gone. Their shine was brief, their presence forgotten. And then there was the other kind. The one who never spoke too much, the one who appeared ordinary, almost invisible. And yet, little by little, everything bent toward them. Opportunities, alliances, influence. As though the universe itself conspired in their favor. That is not accident. That is hidden advantage. Neuroscience tells us the brain is wired to mistake visibility for importance, a phenomenon called the spotlight bias. We believe those in the light are powerful because they are seen. But real power does not need to be seen. Real power needs only to exist. Quantum mechanics whispers the same. What is observed collapses into a single possibility. What remains unobserved stays infinite. The hidden contains the true advantage. This is why Machiavelli never competed in the open. He understood that the moment you reveal your strength, you limit it. The moment you declare your goal, you invite resistance. The moment you step into the light, you become predictable. And the predictable can always be defeated. You may believe that to hide your strength is weakness, but it is the opposite. To hide is to protect. To conceal is to preserve the infinite. The tiger does not roar before the strike. The serpent does not announce its venom. The storm does not give notice before it breaks the sky. You too must learn this. You must master the art of concealed strength. Machiavelli once warned, when you strike at the powerful, do not wound, kill. For a wound reveals your intent, exposes your position, awakens the enemy against you. But what if you never struck in the open at all? What if your enemy never even realized you existed until the day their empire crumbled beneath them? This is the perfection of hidden advantage. Not only to win, but to win without being seen. And here lies the shift. Because once you see through the illusion of strength, the world begins to unravel. The glitter of wealth loses its shine. The applause of crowds grows hollow. The faces that seemed untouchable reveal themselves as fragile masks. And then, something within you hardens. You no longer seek to compete. You no longer seek to prove. You begin to play a different game entirely, the silent game. The invisible game, the game Machiavelli mastered. Pause. Feel the stillness of this truth. The arena is filled with noise. Your power lies in silence. The world worships appearances, but your power lies in the unseen. They believe strength is what shines. But you now know the brightest flame burns out fastest. True strength is invisible, and invisibility is undefeatable. Machiavelli knew a truth most men never dared to whisper. To survive, you must disguise yourself. Not with costumes or masks of silk, but with masks of intention. You must appear ordinary while moving extraordinarily. You must seem harmless while carrying the power to destroy. The wolf does not walk into the village snarling. He lowers his head, mimics the dog, waits for the door to open. And only when the time comes does he bare his teeth. This is the essence of the hidden advantage. Never reveal your hunger till the prey is already in your jaws. In Florence, Machiavelli witnessed this dance firsthand. The Medici family, Masters of power did not shout their dominance. They did not beg the crowd to recognize them. They sponsored art. They smiled as patrons. They appeared as servants of beauty, of faith, of culture. But beneath that mask, they controlled the very arteries of the city: money, alliances, information. By the time their rivals realized the truth, Florence already belonged to them. And the people. They never saw chains. They saw paintings. They saw churches. They saw glory. Such is the rule of disguise. Power thrives when it hides behind beauty. Modern life is no different. Look at those who dominate today. Do you see them bragging, competing openly, screaming their plans to the crowd? No. They appear calm. They appear generous. They appear ordinary. But what they build in silence, networks, leverage, invisible loyalties, that is where their power grows. They let others waste themselves in the open, while they remain untouchable in the dark. Neuroscience calls this masking. The brain naturally filters what is threatening. A smile lowers defenses. A calm tone disarms suspicion. Once trust is gained, influence seeps in quietly, invisibly. Quantum theory offers its own reflection. A particle behaves one way when observed, another when hidden. Visibility changes nature itself. Invisibility protects potential. Machiavelli did not need these sciences to know. He knew it by watching men destroy themselves by being too visible, too honest, too eager to show their weapons. And here is where most people fail. Their ego refuses to disguise. They want to be recognized, admired, validated. They walk into every room announcing themselves, not realizing that in doing so, they sacrifice the most valuable thing they possess: mystery. Because the moment people see you fully, they begin to measure you. The moment they measure you, they begin to plot against you. Disguise keeps you safe. Disguise keeps you infinite. You must understand this is not about lies. It is about survival. The world punishes the one who reveals too much, too soon. So you move quietly. You appear ordinary. You let them underestimate you. For underestimation is the most beautiful disguise of all. Imagine this in your own life. You are in a meeting. Everyone argues, competes, raises their voices. They fight in the open. You remain quiet. They think you have nothing to say. They dismiss you. And then, at the perfect moment, you speak. Not loudly, long, just one sentence. The room shifts. The decision bends. The loudest grows silent. That is the hidden advantage. Not to speak most, to speak at the moment it matters. Not to show your hand, but to play the card no one knew you carried. Pause here. Breathe into this silence. The fools of the world will always rush to be seen. Let them. Applaud them even. Encourage their performance, while you, in your disguise, prepare your invisible strike. For when you finally move, no one will see it coming. And when it lands, they will call it fate. Invisibility sounds like a fantasy, a cloak woven in myth. But Machiavelli knew it as the most practical weapon in the world. Not the invisibility of vanishing from sight, but the deeper invisibility of escaping notice, of living in plain view while your true movements remain unseen. The alchemy of power is not in being recognized. It is in being forgotten. History hides these masters well. Consider the gray men who whispered behind kings. They never wore crowns, yet their words bent kingdoms. They never raised armies, yet nations burned at their command. They were invisible because they chose to be. Look closely at your own age. Do you think the ones you see, the faces on screens, the names in headlines, are the real rulers? No, they are the actors. The theater continues. The real power sits in silence, writes no posts, grants no interviews. Their influence flows like an underground river, felt but never seen. This is the alchemy Machiavelli spoke of: to turn presence into absence, absence into control. Psychology confirms what he intuited. The mind remembers what is loud, but it obeys what is consistent. The ego clings to spectacle, but the nervous system bends to subtlety. The invisible hand does not push. It shapes. It guides. It directs. And by the time you notice, it is already too late. Quantum physics whispers a similar secret: the vacuum, the unseen, is not empty at all. It hums with hidden energy, shaping what becomes visible. Reality itself is built from what cannot be observed. So too is power. The unseen forms the visible. The hidden directs the open. This is why you must resist the hunger for recognition. When you feel the urge to prove yourself, pause. When you want to announce your victories, stop. When you want to fight in the open, disappear. Do not give them a target. Do not give them a name to curse. Do not give them a story to fight against. Be nothing. And because you are nothing, you can become anything. Imagine the way water moves. It does not stand on the battlefield and demand to be noticed. It flows where there is space. It wears down stone without a sound. It fills the cracks no one else sees. That is invisibility. To move not with force, but with inevitability. To let others fight in the open while you flow silently beneath their feet. Machiavelli lived this truth. Exiled, disgraced, forgotten by Florence, he did not march into the city screaming for recognition. He wrote quietly, in the shadows. He poured into his manuscripts the blueprints of power, disguised as advice for princes. And though he died without the glory he craved, his words became immortal. Invisible in life, unforgettable in death. That is the alchemy of invisibility. And you must learn it too. When they compete for applause, withdraw. When they demand you fight, refuse. When they insist on measuring your worth, remain unrateable. Because the moment they cannot see you, they cannot stop you. And when you finally emerge, will not feel like victory. It will feel like inevitability. Pause here. Let this silence wrap around you. Because if you truly absorb this, you will feel something shifting, a loosening, a release. The world no longer compels you to shine. You no longer crave the burning spotlight. You no longer bleed for open contests. You are becoming invisible. And in that invisibility, you are becoming untouchable. Power is not chaos. It is geometry, angles, lines, pressure points. Machiavelli knew this. To compete in the open is to fight with fists. To compete in the hidden is to fight with architecture. You do not clash with opponents. You shift the ground beneath their feet. This is the geometry of power. Unseen arrangements that dictate visible outcomes. Picture a chessboard. The amateur fights piece for piece. The master shapes the entire board. The fool thinks the game is about capturing pawns. The strategist knows the game is about space, leverage, inevitability. In life, most people fight for pawns. They battle openly for jobs, for titles, for recognition. They believe the visible prize is the point. But you must learn the deeper game. The game where pieces move because you made them move, though they believe it was their choice. That is geometry arranging outcomes in silence. History shows it. The Borgias did not always kill their enemies with swords. They married them. They dined with them. They poisoned them with gifts. While rivals fought openly in the courts, the Borgias rewrote alliances in back rooms. By the time the battlefield appeared, the war was already over. This is the hidden advantage of the visible clash is just theater. The real victory is written in the geometry beforehand. Neuroscience agrees. Conscious mind is the stage of conflict. The subconscious is the architecture. Habits, biases, instincts, all form beneath awareness. Guide choices before logic even arrives. Influence someone's subconscious, and you have already shaped their action. Quantum physics, too, reflects this law. Particles do not move randomly. They align with hidden fields. Invisible forces dictate visible behavior. Reality itself is geometry, unseen but inescapable. And so is power. Think of your own life. You may argue with someone, fight for their agreement, exhaust yourself in open competition. Or you may seed an idea quietly, days before. You may influence the environment. You may plant questions that linger. And when the moment comes, they choose what you wanted all along, believing it was their decision. That is geometry. That is power without force. That is victory without battle. But here is the danger your ego will resist. The ego craves the roar of the crowd, the thrill of the fight, the visible victory. It wants to bleed in the arena, to stand in the light, to be celebrated. Machiavelli warns, the more visible your triumph, the more enemies it creates. The louder your win, the more fragile it becomes. Hidden advantage is colder, eternal. For when you win in silence, no one knows who to hate. No one knows where to strike back. You remain untouched. You remain infinite. Pause here. Let this geometry unfold in your mind. You are no longer a piece on the board. You are the board itself. You are no longer a fighter in the arena. You are the architect of the arena. You are no longer competing. You are arranging inevitability. And once you understand this, you will stop bleeding publicly. You will stop wasting your energy in foolish contests. You will begin to build the hidden structures of influence that bend the world without ever revealing your hand. This is the geometry of power, and once you master it, you do not just win. You become destiny itself.